will be tax secretariat headed by Engineer Maria Hermas. FOP to all the invited observers, viewers watching over the YouTube account of the Peace and Awards Committee of Zamboanga del Norte 2nd District Engineering Office. Good morning.
Good morning.
We would like to request a back secretariat to have a roll call and read the agenda of today's procurement activity.
Thank you, Madam Presiding Chair, or Vice Doctor Person. Our conference agenda for contract ID number 25-3C0110. Repair maintenance of Lingawan River Revetment 1, Barangay Lower Inuman, Sindangan, Zamboanga and Norte. Be presented by for basic contract data and project details. Be presented by Engineer Orlan Khalid, the end user, or document to be submitted by the leader, by Ms. Rochelle Garzola as under billing procedures, by Engineer Brgy procedures in the online submission and report fee, by Engineer Christine Carrion, and the three strike policy by Ms. Before we proceed, let's acknowledge first the attendance. Our Vice Doctor Person, the presiding chair for today's PUB, and
Present.
back members, Engineer Teresita Liena, Engineer Elixi Alparo, Engineer Almar Acevedo, from the end user, Engineer Orlan Khalid,
Present.
from technical working group, that is by Engineer Miguel Pakahin, members of the DPWH. We have Engineer Christine Carrion, Engineer Rosie Bacara,
Present.
Ms. Rochelle Garzola, Engineer Denise Permi,
Present.
from the Secretariat headed by Procurement, and Engineer Manuel. Also, we have Engineer Castillo Daniam, Ms. Leanne Cavalli, and yours truly, Rosulier Morales. For the observers, hopefully they're viewing online, as well as the contractors or investigator. Madam Chair, the members present today established quorum. You will now proceed this quick conference session.
Thank you, Mr. Rosilio Morales Jr., Tax Secretariat. Since the present BAC members constitute a quorum, I would like to call today's video conference to order. We would like to request a technical person from the maintenance section, Engineer Orlan Khalid and Engineer Ron Bacara, to present to us the basic contract data of contract ID 25JC0110, repair maintenance of Lingawan River River Revetment 1, Barangay Lower Inuman, Sindangan, Zamboanga.
So, good morning, all.
Good
morning. May present to you the this project 2025 GC 0110. So, project name, repair maintenance of Lingawan River Revetment 1, Barangay Lower Inuman, Sindangan, Zamboanga Norte. Contract ID 25 GC 0110. Location, Barangay Lower Inuman, Sindangan, Zamboanga Norte. Scope of work, repair maintenance of Lingawan River Revetment 1. TBC, 2 million pesos only. Total contract duration, 39 calendar days. So, system. This is the plan. Title, repair maintenance of Lingawan River Revetment 1, Barangay Lower Inuman, Sindangan, Zamboanga Norte. So, phase 1, Barangay Lower Inuman, Sindangan, Zamboanga del Norte, station at 0 plus 045.20 to station 0 plus 060 with a length of 14.80 linear meter. So this is the location map, as you can see at the screen. Yeah. Typical revetment detail. So as you can see in the screen, shown in the screen, that's the item 1712, concrete roof protection, 100 mm thick with a 10 mm diameter rebar, space 100 mm on central base. This is the section of so item 1711 is constantly at the box top. So item 113 rubber concrete. Rubber concrete is item 1704 embankment. As item 05081 handling drag embankment. Item 17021A structural excavation sa gamay. Common soil na siya. So then item 171612 structural steel sheet pile driven 600 6,000 mm length or 6 meters. Nasa heavy post nga 75 mm diameter by 1 meter. So PVC with post at 2 meters interval 0.06 cubic meter gravel bag in polyester nonwoven filter cloth. Item involved in the program work. So there are part B, other requirements. So nasa B.51, project billboard, B.7, occupational safety and health program, B.91, mobilization. Part C, earthwork, removal of structures and construction. So 1011. Drainage slope protection structures. So nasa Hanley rock embankment only. Then sa part L, flood and river control and drainage. So two part of part L. So part LA earthwork and part LB bank and slope protection works. So under part LA nasa 1702 1A structure excavation and 1704 1B embankment from Barrow. Part LB 1711 1 stone masonry. 1712 1 concrete slope protection. 1713 1 rubber concrete. 1716 structural steel sheet pile furnish. And 1716 12 structural steel sheet piles driven. The last is 1716 16 test pile furnace and driven. So that's all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for all those information, General member, and Mr. Now we will give you the word, please, for the presentation of documents to be submitted by the leaders for contract I committee, then by the JCCC 110.
So good morning, everyone. I will be discussing the eligibility requirements. So first, contractors who wish to participate in this bidding are encouraged to enroll in our CP DPWH Civil Works application. The contractor's eligibility to bid on the project will be determined using the DPWH contractor profile eligibility process. Although prior registration of bidders with the CWA is not a prerequisite for the submission of the specific contract, the DPWH encourages contractors to submit these documents to the procurement service as early as possible. So, simultaneously, not later than the deadline for the submission of bids, the contractor's confidential applications statement for inclusion together with all the required documents enumerated in the list shall be uploaded in the official website. So for this project, 25 JC0110 we will be requiring a general engineering classification of G-2 for flood control and size range of small B. For the technical and component envelope, first we will discuss the Class A legal document. So a valid and updated field jobs registration certificate will be submitted. This certificate will include the registration certificate, mayor's business permit, tax clearance, and Philippine Contractors Accreditation Board license and registration and audited financial statements. Those documents mentioned will be included in the valid and updated field job certification registration and shall not be longer submitted if your field job application is already updated. For joint ventures, each part of the venture shall submit their respective field certificates of registration. So next, for the Class A technical documents. First, the statement of the contractor's bidder of all its ongoing government and private contracts, including contracts awarded but not yet started, using NXO of the CCASE. The following documents will be submitted together with the NXO are shown in the screen. Next document is the statement of the bidder's single largest completed contract using Annex N, with the supporting documents to be submitted with the Annex N as shown in the screen. The bidder will be eligible if it had done a single largest completed contract containing a category or categories of work which is the same as or similar to the major category of works, and it must be at least 50% of the ADC of the project to be bid. Exception for this rule are contractors under small a and small b categories without similar experience on the contract to be bid may be allowed to bid if the cost of such contract is not more than the allowable range of contract costs of the registration based on the guidelines as described by PCAB. So for this project, the major and similar categories of work are shown in the screen. For flood control, the work description is flood control, construction, slope protection using structural measures. For the similar category of work, code, and similar category of work description are shown in the screen. Next, in case of joint ventures, special applicable license shall be required. And for the original copy of bid security, the following form shall be accepted as shown in the screen. Also, the validity for such is 120 calendar days from the date of the opening of the bids. The following forms are already sampled in Infra 10, Infra 11, and Infra 12. Back guarantee, irrevocable letter of credit, and bid security declaration as shown in the screen. Next, if the funding source of the procurement project has not been approved, we will be requiring the bid security to be extended prior to its expiration. This thing will be applicable especially for the early procurement activities project that is dead but not yet awarded. Next, we will be also requiring the original chart for the contract to be bid using the prescribed DPWH format infra number 13. Also, for the list of contractors key personnel, we will be requiring the prescribed form infra number 14 with the following supporting documents as shown in the screen. Next, for the list of contractors key personnel, this project 25JZ0110, we will be requiring one project engineer with a minimum year of experience of 3 years and similar and related experience of 5 years. One project engineer, 3 years minimum similar experience and minimum similar experience for total experience of 5 years. One materials engineer, accredited as materials engineer 1, one geometric control, minimum years of experience of 3 years and maximum years experience for similar and related project of 5 years. One safety officer with duly accredited safety officer with at least 2 years experience of occupational safety and health training. One first aider, also duly accredited. One forewoman with minimum years of similar experience of 3 years and maximum of 5 years experience. For the ME1, the following limits of assignment shall be required as stated in DEO number 98 series of 2016. And also for ME2, the following limits are already shown in the screen. Please familiarize yourselves because this will be conducted and this will be screened through post-qualification. So for item number 6 for Department Order number 9 series of 2012, if a proposed key technical engineer is an employee of the bidder and working in another project at the time of the bidding, the bidder shall submit a certification that the personnel will be pulled out from the ongoing project once the bidder is awarded the project, and he or she shall be replaced with another person with equal or better qualification as certified by the implementing office. The bidder may propose a key technical personnel who is not its employee, provided that the said personnel is required to submit a certification that he or she will work for the bidder if it is awarded on contract under bidding. No personnel shall be assigned more than the 10 key positions. So for the project requirements, these are the list of contractors major construction and materials testing equipment units, which are all list and under purchase using the DPWH and Infra 15. The following supporting documents shall be attached. These are the minimum major construction equipment that is required for this project 25G01110 as shown in the screen. In compliance with Department Order number 253 series of 2023, only concrete and asphalt mixes produced by duly accredited plants shall be used in DPWH contracts. Thus, the bidder must attach a certificate of accreditation for contracts requiring batching plants. Also, remind that for minimum materials testing equipment, refer to the DEO number 11 series of 2017 for inclusion of the minimum material testing equipment in the technical component of the bid. The minimum testing equipment required shall be per contractor basis and not on a per project basis. The equipment may be used to service several ongoing projects of the bidder. The bidder should specify in the submitted bid the location of the equipment where it can be inspected. If any piece of equipment in the specific location during post-qualification, then the bidder will be post-disqualified. So it means na kung unsa ang submitted list of equipment submitted during the technical component, it should be in the specified location located. Otherwise, it shall be ground for post-disqualification. So also, let's not forget the omnibus warrant statement using infra form number 16. For additional document, which is already shown on the screen. And for the net financial contracting capacity, it shall be calculated using current assets minus current liabilities times 15. The values of the bidder's current assets and current liabilities shall be based on the latest audited financial statement submitted to the BIR, which is already reflected in your field certifications, registration certificate. During the bid opening, the contractor's NFCC shall be determined using the DPWH contractor profile eligibility process. So your CWA application that you registered should be always latest and updated. So in case of joint venture documents, we will be requiring a duly signed joint venture agreement, duly notarized statements from all the potential joint venture partners stating that they will enter into and abide by the provisions of the GBA in the instant that the bid is successful. So next, let's go to the financial component envelope. So the first document to be submitted is the sign financial bid form using in DPWH in Pro Form 9. So each bid should be signed, and in case for discount that is handwritten, it should also be signed by the bidder. So all taxes included in the BOQ should be reflected also in the detailed estimate, which is item E. For the item G, the performance security required are the following, which its percentage equivalent to the total contract prices. Any of these security form shall be accepted provided that they follow the percentage required by the total contract price. Next is the bill of quantities. The bill of quantities using the prescribed form DPWH in Press 17. Also, for the bid price summary, we will be using the DPWH form in Pra 18. For the BOQ, the bidder shall not change the entries under pay number, pay item number, pay item description, the unit, and the quantity which are set by the procuring entity. A subtotal shall be included for each page of the BOQ, and each page shall be signed by the bidder, because no signature shall be ground for rejection of bid. So for the detailed estimate, the summary sheet shall be included with the construction materials, labor rates, and equipment rentals used in coming up with the bid. Also, all the taxes required added shall be also be reflected in the detailed estimates. The last one is the cash flow by the quarter, which is using the form DPWH in Infra 19 and shall be basically the duration of the procurement project. So let us go to the next topic, the format, sealing, and marking of bids. The original copy of the bid indicated in the BS shall be typed or written in indelible ink and shall be signed by the bidder or persons duly authorized to bind the bidder to the contract. It shall be printed in the A4 size paper with a tab number using the prescribed form indicated, and no alteration of their format or substitute shall be accepted. And any erasures, alterations, or writing shall be valid only if they are signed or initialed by the person signing the bid. So the bidder shall submit their bids through their duly authorized representative using the form specified in the bidding documents. Two separate sealed bid envelopes or two password-protected bidding documents in compressed archive forms in case of electronic bid submission. The bid shall be received by the back on the date, time, and place specified in the invitation to bid paragraph. So bids submitted after the deadline shall not be accepted by the back. So the bidder shall submit one original of the technical component and one original of the financial document. Enclose the original eligibility and technical documents in one sealed envelope marked by original technical document and original financial envelope. Both envelopes shall then be sealed in the outer envelope marked original bid. So it's just saying na one part technical, one part financial, and insert the mother envelope na na-label. The label shall indicate the contract ID, the name of the contract to be bid, the name and address of the bidder, the name and address of the procuring entity, and a warning that do not open before the date of the bid opening. Also included 4 copies of the technical and financial components of the bid. So these are the illustration of the marking and sealing. It's shown in the screen, the original and one copy with each arrangement as already discussed earlier, and also the labels and the marking, the name of the contract, the name of the address, the recipient, and also the warning do not open before the date of the opening of the bid. So I guess that would be all.
Thank you, Luis, for chatting with us out.
Whereby we proceed to the next topic.
Okay, we're gonna proceed with the standard treating procedures to be presented by Engineer J. Bakahan.
Thank you, Ms. Chair. Good morning to everyone. For the standard bidding procedures, first is the preliminary examination of bids. The box shall open the first bid envelope in public immediately after the deadline for the submission and receipt of bids. So first, we will be going to open the first envelope. The box shall check the presence or absence of submitted documents of each bidder against a checklist of required documents to ascertain if they are all present using a non-discretionary pass-fail criterion. Receipt of scanned copies of the first bid envelope with the required forms which are for online or electronic bid submission shall be considered as compliant with the requirements of the said bid submission, subject to the submission of the original copies of the following, like the bid security declaration or other forms, the bid security and such as the omnibus sworn statement. This form shall be submitted by the bidder to the value received by the back concerning during the post-qualification stage. Then the submission of these forms on the set period shall render the bid submission as non-compliant and shall result in the post-disqualification of the bid. And also in opening the second envelope, it shall be open if the first envelope was rated pass. Bid with missing, incomplete, or patently insufficient and or total bid price exceeding the ABC shall be rated failed. The ranking only bids, those whose both envelopes were rated pass, shall be considered for evaluation and comparison. In the detailed evaluation of bids, this will follow immediately after the preliminary examination of bids. The BAC and the BAC DPWH will be considering two aspects. These are the completeness of bids and the arithmetical calculation. For the completeness of bids, partial bid is not allowed. Thus, bids not providing all the required item in the bill of quantities shall be considered non-responsive and thus automatically disqualified. Where a required item is provided but no price is indicated, it shall be considered as non-responsive. And specifying a zero or a dash for the said item would mean that it is being offered for free to the government. The BAC will be checking the computational errors to enable proper comparison of all eligible bids. The ABC shall be the upper limit of or ceiling for acceptable bid prices. If a bid price as evaluated and calculated is higher than the ABC, the bidder submitting the same shall be automatically disqualified. There shall be no lower limit or floor on the amount of the award. Bidders shall be required to include the cost of all taxes such as but not limited to value-added tax, income tax, local taxes, and other fiscal levies and duties which shall be itemized in the bid form and reflected in the detailed estimate. So in case of discrepancy, this rule will prevail. The bid price in figure versus the bid price in words. So the bid price in words will prevail. Total price per item versus unit price for the item times quantity of that item and the stated total price versus actual sum of prices of components item. Another is the unit cost in the detailed estimate versus unit cost in the bill of quantities and copies versus original. So after the detailed evaluation, bid shall then be ranked in the ascending order of their total calculated bid prices to identify the lowest calculated bid. The bidder with the LCB shall then undergo post-qualification. So the third is the post qualification. So purpose of this is to determine whether the bidder with the LCB complies with and is responsive to all requirements and conditions as specified in the bidding documents. So procedure, the post qualification shall verify, validate, and ascertain the veracity of authenticity and validity of all the Class A eligibility documents supporting the field reps certificate of registration and membership, and all the other statements made and documents submitted by the bidder with the lowest calculated bid using non-discretionary criteria. So within 5 calendar days from receive of the notice of the back, the following must be submitted by the bidder undergoing post qualification. So these are shown in the screen. The next one is the legal requirements to be submitted. So the bank will verify, validate, and ascertain license, certificates, permits, and agreements submitted by the bidder. And the bank will verify if the bidder is not included in any blacklist. For the technical requirements, verification and validation of the bidder's stated competence and experience, verification of the competence and experience of the bidder's key personnel to be assigned to the project, and verification of availability and commitment, or inspection and testing of the required capacities and operating conditions of the major construction equipments and material testing equipments. Checking of the performance of the bidder in its ongoing government and private contracts if any of these ongoing contracts shows the following deficiencies due to contractor's fault or negligence, the bank shall disqualify. So, as shown in the screen, ang mga rules. For the financial requirements, to verify, validate, and ascertain the bid price proposal of the bidder and whenever applicable the required committed line of credit in the amount specified and over the period stipulated in the bidding documents, or the bidder's NFCC to ensure that the bidder can sustain the operating cash flow of the transaction. If the BAC determines that the bidder with the lowest calculated bid passes all the criteria for post qualification, it shall declare the said bid as the lowest calculated responsive and recommend to the whole the award of contract to the said. If, however, the BAC determines that the bidder with the lowest calculated bid fails the criteria for the post qualification, it shall immediately notify the said bidder in writing of its post disqualification and the grounds for it. So immediately after the BAC has notified the first bidder of its post disqualification and notwithstanding any pending request for reconsideration thereof, the BAC shall initiate and complete the same post qualification process on the bidder with the second lowest calculated bid. If the second bidder passes the post qualification, and provided that the request for reconsideration of the first bidder has been denied, the second bidder shall be post-qualified as the bidder with the LCRB. If the second bidder, however, fails the post-qualification, the procedure of the post-qualification shall be repeated for the bidder with the next lowest calculated bid, and so on until the LCRB is determined for award. After the BAC determines the bidder with the LCRB or SCRB, they shall recommend to the whole the award of contract to the bidder with the LCRB or SCRB. In case of approval, the whole shall immediately issue the notice of award. Within 10 calendar days from the receipt of the winning bidder of the notice of award, the following conditions should be complied before the contract may be awarded. This is shown in the screen, the submission of the following document. If the bidder fails to meet these conditions, they will be subject for disqualification and their bid security will be forfeited. So within 7 calendar days from the date of the approval of contract, the procuring entity shall issue the entity together with a copy of the approved contract to the successful bidder. The date of receipt of the successful bidder of the entity shall be the date of effectivity of the contract and the start date of the project. That's all for the standard procedure of.
Okay, thank you, Engineer Bakara. We will now give the floor to Engineer Talion for the presentation of the procedures in the online submission of activities.
Good morning to everyone. I will now be discussing the procedures in the electronic submission and receipt of bids for the procurement of civil works contracts. So for the step one, or the sending of the official receipt or the OR, bidder shall send a copy of the OR to the email address specified in the invitation to bid prior to the deadline of submission of bids in portable document format or the PDF. Following the file format shown on the screen. Only bidders with system-accepted proof of payment shall be allowed to submit their electronic bids. Step 2 is the receiving an auto-reply email. An auto-reply email will be sent to the bidder after successfully sending the OR to the proper email address. An auto-reply email will also be sent to acknowledge receipt of the OR in instances where an email is sent with incorrect subject contract ID, which means that the corresponding folder with the same contract ID does not exist in the eBid portal, or without any attachment, or with attachment that is not in the prescribed format, or with more than one attachment, or after the deadline. Step 3A is the bid preparation single file. Bidders must prepare the electronic bid in password-protected archive format, following the file format shown on the screen. The electronic bid or the main archive file shall contain two files, the technical and financial proposal, both in a password-protected archive format that follows the format shown on the screen. For the technical proposal and for the financial proposal. Similar to the manual submission of bids, individual files must be organized in two folders. One folder for the technical and one folder for the financial, following the format shown on the screen. All files in the technical and financial proposal must be in a PDF format, regardless if scanned or exported or published, and shall follow the file format shown on the screen. It shall specify whether it is a bid securing declaration, the omnibus sworn statement, a bid form, or a bill of quantities. Shown on the screen is the format of, the arrangement of the documents to be included in the password protected folder. Step 3B is the bid preparation for multiple file. If the total file size is greater than the limit of the email service provider, the archive must be split and emailed separately using the same format provided. If the archive is split into two or more and emailed separately, the email subject should be email subject format, bid submission, A or B for contract ID, where A represents the main archive folder number and B represents the total number of archive folders. Example for archive split it into two and email separately, is bid submission 1 of 2 for 25 JC0023, subject for first email, and bid submission 2 of 2 for 25 JC0023. For bid modification, single file, bid modification is allowed only before the deadline of submission and receipt of bids, in which case the bidder shall send through email the revised bid in a password-protected archive format, following the file format shown on the screen, where X represents the number of bid modifications submitted. The revised electronic bid or the main archive file shall contain 2 files: the revised technical and revised financial proposal, both in a password-protected archive format, which also follows the standard format shown on the screen. Similar to the manual submission of revised bids, individual files must be organized into 2 folders. One folder for the technical and one folder for the financial proposal. The format for both of the proposals are shown on the screen, where X represents the number of bid modifications submitted. All files in the modified technical and modified financial proposal must be in a portable document format or PDF, regardless if scanned or exported or published, and follows the same file format with the original documents. Shown on the screen is the way the documents are going to be in the file protected and password protected folder. Step 4 is the submission of bids. Bidders must submit the electronic bid to the email address identified in the invitation to bid and bid data sheet, which is the official email address is electronicbids_zamboanga2@dpwh.gov.ph. Bidders must use the registered email address in the Civil Works application. For bidders not enrolled in the CWA, any email can be used, provided that the bank shall verify the legitimacy of the email and immediately after the opening of bids, submit all its Class A and Class B documents to the Procurement Service for CWA enrollment and reprocessing of electronic eligibility check pursuant to item D.3 and D.4 of DEO of Department Order number 117 series of 2017. Prospective bidders who submit their bids electronically shall not be allowed to submit bids manually. Bid modification can be submitted electronically or manually regardless of the manner by which the original bid was submitted. If the bidder submitted modifications both electronically and manually for a specific contract, the submission with the latest official date and time of receipt shall prevail. Step 4 talks about the PCAB ID for joint ventures. For joint ventures, the format of PCAB ID to be used by the bidder in naming their files, folders, and archives shall be JV-the PCAB ID of the lead member. For example, if 3 contractors with PCAB ID numbers 26541, which is the lead member, 67890 and 24680 entered a joint venture, the PCAB ID they must use is the JV-26541 or the PCAB ID number of the lead member. The following is the guidelines for the submission of letter of non-participation. In case of non-participation, the bidder shall send a letter of non-participation before the deadline of submission and receipt of bids to the email address identified in the invitation to bid or the bid data sheet. The file format must be on a PDF file, and following the file format, which is the pickup ID number underscore contract ID underscore non-participation dot PDF. For the email subject format is the non-participation for contract ID for the contract ID. The following is the submission. It's the guidelines for the submission of letter of withdrawal. In case of withdrawal of bid, the bidder shall send a letter of withdrawal before the deadline of submission and receipt of bids to the email address identified in the invitation to bid and bid data sheet. Bid for the file format must be PDF and must follow the file name format, which is pickup ID underscore contract ID underscore bid withdrawal dot PDF. And its email subject format is bid withdrawal for contract ID, for the specific contract ID. A bidder that withdraws its bid shall not be permitted to submit another bid directly or indirectly for the same contract. Now proceeding to the receipt of bids. An auto-reply email shall be sent to the bidder after successfully sending the electronic bid to the proper email address of the procuring entity concerned. The auto-reply email shall serve as the bid receipt, which can be saved and or printed by the bidder. The time indicated in the latest auto-reply email shall be the official time of submission. Bids submitted after the deadline shall not be accepted. An auto-reply email shall also be sent to acknowledge receipt of electronic bids in the following cases: with incorrect subject contract ID, which means that the corresponding folder with the same contract ID does not exist in the e-bid portal, or without any attachments, or with attachment that is not in the prescribed format, or with more than one attachment, after the deadline, withdrawal of bid, non-participation, or the bidder has yet to submit proof of purchase of bidding documents or the official receipt. The following will not be accepted: submission of bid without initially submitting the proof of purchase of bidding documents, submission of bid after the deadline, and submission of proof of purchase of bidding documents after the deadline. Now, during the opening of bids, before downloading the electronic bid, the back secretariat must check in the e-bid portal if the bidder has submitted the proof of purchase of bidding documents. Bids with no proof of purchase shall not be accepted. The back secretariat must download the electronic bid from the e-bid portal and open it using the password provided by the bidder during the actual bid opening. Following Section 4.2b of GPPB Resolution Number 09/2020. The password shall only be disclosed by the bidders verbally or in writing during the actual bid opening, which may be done in person, phone call, through a letter, or through a video conferencing, webcasting, or other similar technology available. If the bidder chooses to disclose the password through phone call, he should make sure that the contact numbers, as recorded in the CWA, are open when back calls to ask for the password. The bidder may also choose to call the back number, which shall be announced during the bid opening time, and wait for the opening of his bid for him to disclose the password. If the bidder chooses to disclose the password through writing, the letters for password 1, or the main file folder, technical component file folder, and password 2, or the financial component file folder, should be enclosed in separate envelopes with the sender details, bidder name, and address. Address the back chairperson details of the bidding, such as contract ID, contract name, bid opening date and time. Signed and sealed with a remark, password, insert 1 or 2, did not open before the actual bid opening date and time. The password protected archive file or the password protected archive file, electronic bid, technical proposal, and financial proposal submitted shall be opened using the password provided by the bidder in the manner referred above and shall be successfully opened or accessed by the BAC. Bidders shall be given a maximum of 3 attempts or a period of 15 minutes, whichever comes first, to provide the correct password, except in unforeseen justifiable circumstances. Otherwise, the bidder shall be disqualified. The bidder may also be subjected to the sanctions under DEO under Department Order number 28 series of 2024, the 3-strike policy, as may be warranted under the circumstances. If an electronic bid or file was found to be damaged and could not be extracted or opened, the bid shall be considered failed. If a bidder committed typographical errors in the submission of electronic bid and or attached files in the wrong format, the bid shall be accepted provided that the bidder or its duly authorized representative shall acknowledge such condition of the bid as submitted. The BAC shall assume no responsibility for the misplacement of the contents of the improperly sealed or marked bid or improperly compressed or password protected folder or for its premature opening. In case of non-participation and withdrawal of bids, the BAC Secretariat shall check the letters of non-participation or bid withdrawal received in the dedicated email address and stored in the email e-bid portal and shall observe the provisions under Section 26.2 of the revised IRR of RA 9184 and Department Order number 28 series of 2024 or the 3-strike policy. That's all, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. Emergency, Kalayon, moving on, Ms. Leia Pagay, you will now present the 3-strike policy.
Good morning, everyone. So I will be discussing the 3-strike policy guidelines. So for this one, we will know the definition of 3-strike policy, the violations, the enforcement and penalties, the due process and implementation. So what is a 3-strike policy? So from Section 69.1 of the revised IRR of RA 9184, in addition to the provisions of Rules 2102 of this IRR, the hope subject to the authority delegated to the BAC, if any, shall impose on bidders or prospective bidders the administrative penalty of suspension for 1 year for the first offense and suspension of 2 years for the second offense from participating in the competitive bidding process as well as disqualification from further participating in the competitive bidding being undertaken by the procuring entity concerned where applicable for the following violations. So first is all other acts that tend to defeat the purpose of the competitive bidding, such as habitually withdrawing from bidding, submitting late bids, or patently insufficient bid for at least 3 times within a year except for valid reason. So, the 3-strike policy refers to the sanctions imposed on bidders committing 3 strikes or violations considered as acts that tend to defeat the purpose of the public bidding within a year. So, what are the violations considered acts that tend to defeat the purpose of public bidding? So they have 3 major categories, which are withdrawal from the bidding process, submission of non-participation letter, or failure to submit a bid after purchasing the bid documents without valid reason. Second is the submission of late bids without valid reasons as determined by the BAC, and third is submission of patently insufficient bid. So for the withdrawal from the bidding process, so what are the acceptable reasons for this? First is upon computation prior to bid submission, the bidder determines that their proposed bid price will exceed the approved budget for the contract aid for the contract or the ABC. To substantiate this, the bidder must provide the following evidence, which includes but not limited to detailed budget estimation, market price report. So for the second is submission of late bids with the valid reasons as determined by the bank. So the acceptable reasons for this are due to extraordinary circumstances such as force majeure, and the second is due to unexpected and unavoidable external events that impede or prevent a bidder from timely bid submission as defined in Article 1174 of the Philippine Civil Code. So the third violation considered acts that tend to defeat the purpose of public bidding is the submission of patently insufficient bid. So what do you mean by patently insufficient bid? So it refers to a bid that fails to include or comply with certain mandatory requirements. So, three stages where the bank determines whether the bidder have submitted a patently insufficient bid. First, during the eligibility screening. Second is during the bid evaluation. And third is during the post-qualification. So, during the eligibility screening, the submission of the expired certificate of PhilJEP's registration, the Platinum membership, or the certificate of PhilJEP's certification containing expired Class A legal and financial documents as determined during the eligibility screening. During the bid evaluation, it's the failure to submit required bidding forms, the submission of completed insufficient or defective documents, the submission of unauthorized bid securing declaration, an omnibus source statement, the JVA, or any statements from all the potential joint venture partners, and the submission of the bid form, the bid security declaration, the omnibus source statement, and GVA without the name, legal capacity, and signature of the bidder or its authorized representative. And also during the bid evaluation, the nomination of key personnel or profession different from what is required by the bidding documents. Also, the failure to submit proof of ownership, lease or purchase agreement of pledged equipment, the failure to submit the required certification of the key personnel, and the failure to comply with the required minimum number of key personnel and equipment as stated in the bidding documents. So third, during the post-qualification, the participation bidding for infra projects by a bidder whose allowable range of contract costs as indicated in the pickup license does not match with the specific requirements of the infra projects being bid for in terms of category, classification, and size ranges. So let's tackle for what are the penalties. So if the bidder commits any of the three major offenses, acts listed above 3 times within a year, and if these three offenses are of similar or identical nature, it will trigger the enforcement of the stipulated administrative penalty, the suspension from participating in all DPWH procurement activities, and entering into contract with any DPWH procuring entity. So this may result in the blacklisting of the suspended bidder, thereby disqualifying the bidder from participating in any government procurement activities for a period of 1 year. And also, the bidder will also face bid security forfeiture and must comply with the enforcement of the bid securing declaration conditions. So when a bidder commits another set of 3 similar offenses or more than 2 sets of 3 similar offense, the bidder may be subject to an increased penalty resulting in blacklisting for a period of 2 years. When an offense leading to strike is identified, the erring bidder will be promptly notified by the bank and given a chance to explain their actions before any final decision is made. So if the bidder is suspended due to 3 strikes, they have the right to file a request for reconsideration. So if the suspended bidder has filed a request for reconsideration, the awarding of the contract may be deferred until such request is resolved. So note that it is important to highlight that the bidder can accumulate these 3 strikes across different projects. And even if the bidder has accumulated 3 strikes, this alone shall not be ground for eligibility disqualification or post-qualification until the suspension order is approved by the Secretary and officially posted in DPWH website. So for more detailed procedure regarding the three-strikes policy, we kindly refer to the Annex A of the DEO number 28 series of 2024. I believe that's all, Madam Chair.
We will now proceed with item 2 of the designated conference, discussions, comments from leaders and advice from the other representatives of the procurement community. The floor is now open for questions and clarifications. There being none, we would like to request the Secretariat to give the date, time, and place of the deadline for the submission and existing of bills and opinions.
The videos, the deadline of submission and receiving of bills, and the date of initial bill on May 19th at Shaktilan meeting. Here at Procurement Office, DPWH second engineering office, that's all.
Okay, there being no other remaining subject for discussion, and since all the agenda at hand are already presented and discussed, we need a motion for adjournment. Because the renewal was responded to today's project conference is hereby adjourned. Everyone, thank you for your time and presence.